Hi, everybody. Welcome to today's Facebook Live. It's Thursday, October 14th. My name is Elizabeth Matherne with Kuck, Baxter, Immigration. And I'm going to be giving you the latest updates in immigration news, answering your questions live, and whatever else we come up with today. So feel free to jump on with us, join us. Today I want to talk a little, I've got a few things in the news. You may hear background noise. We're just having stuff done at the office. Don't worry about it. I want to talk about the EB India retrogression briefly. I'll just kind of explain that a little bit. Land ports are reopened to fully vaccinated people. I'll talk a little bit about that. The Democrats are tossing around a new proposal to take to the parliamentarian. I'll let you know what that allegedly is. I guess they talked a little bit about it on a conference call yesterday. It doesn't look like much is going to take flight. Doesn't look like much has legs at this point, but I'll tell you what I know about that. As many of you know, the new DACA rule is pending. It's a proposed rule pending for comments. So I'll tell you a little bit about that. I think a lot of you who watch me already know everything that's going on with DACA. And then also I want to just talk a little bit about some form of relief that some people may not know about. I won't be able to tell you like all the complicated factors behind it, but I'd like to talk a little bit about special immigrant juvenile status today and how that can help children who are undocumented here in the United States. It's a really wonderful program, and I just want to make sure it's on your radar. You know, you might know a child who it can help. The thing about it is, a lot of times I see it come across my desk when it's too late, when people are already adults and they're able to come to an immigration attorney and ask questions about, you know, what can be done to help them in their case. Had they had a guardian who knew about SIJS or someone in their life who knew about the possibility, or they were able to get to a lawyer before they turned 18, then it might have been available to them. But it's one of those things, and I say 18 because that's the age of majority here in Georgia. In other states, it can be 19 and or 17. So that's kind of state specific. But feel free to comment, ask questions, click those little bubbles. I guess when you guys click those bubbles, like the likes and the loves. I mean, you can throw some mads in there. I know I make people mad sometimes. Click those and then it'll alert other people that we are on live. So, all right. First of all, let's jump in and talk about one of the late breaking pieces of information. The visa bulletin came out. The EB category for India retrogressed, I think, to like 2012. So that means pending I485s with priority dates after the final action date that's now on the next visa bulletin cannot be approved after 10/31. So basically the little place in line, you know, you imagine the way the visa bulletin works is we're like standing at a deli counter. We take a ticket, that's our turn in line, that's your priority date. So they just rolled back who all is able to have a turn with that retrogression. A lot of people were shocked. You know, will USCIS be able to work 24/7 to adjudicate all of the pending 485s before 10/31, which is in basically 2 weeks? I mean, could they? Maybe. Will they? Probably no. So a lot of people are left holding the bags. I've heard some reports of like 80,000 green cards on the table may go to waste because of this retrogression. So it's heartbreaking for a lot of people. A lot of people are now going to be waiting many more years. So this is kind of a sad state of affairs that we hope can not be forever, but we're kind of starting to get used to it a little bit. Okay, oh, today is National Day of Action to stand with Black migrants, and I stand today and every day with Black migrants. It is sort of one part of immigration that doesn't receive as much attention, and especially here in the South, Black migrants can face persecution and face systemic issues on many sides. So it's very, very difficult. And so I just want to say that in solidarity. And also, you know, I hear people say almost daily about some sort of quip about, oh, the borders are open borders. And let's just point out that within the past 24 days, 72 expulsion flights to Haiti have been sent by the Biden administration. And those are people straight from the border who were not given the opportunity to seek asylum, not given the opportunity to go through a credible fear process, which is a vetting process that allows people to say if they're afraid to be returned to their home country, their credibility gets assessed, their story gets assessed, their likelihood to succeed with an asylum claim, whether they meet the elements of asylum, is reviewed. And not everybody passes a credible fear interview, that's for sure. They were not even given that opportunity. Instead, the Biden administration utilized Title 42, which it said it was going to roll back, has used Title 42 for the past 24 days to forcibly expel, with no access to due process, 72 flights of Haitians. So I don't know. I mean, I guess people see the theater on the news and they think that something's going on, but what I see is facts. I see people that are currently in detention. Here in Georgia, we have almost, I think, around 5,000 immigration detainees, and most of those detention centers are located here in South Georgia, where I am. If I didn't mention it, I'm in the South Georgia office, halfway between Tifton and Valdosta. So we had Irwin County Detention Center close to us. They have since shut down because of human rights violations, which was about a year ago. All of that came out, the sterilization and forced medical treatment on women there in Irwin County. We also have Folkston, which I'm about an hour and a half and some change away from, and Stewart, about the same distance away from. Those are huge detention facilities that detain about 2,500 apiece. So yeah, and I'm receiving phone calls every day from people who are detained at the border. So I don't really have much facts to support this allegation of an open border. If we're catching, detaining, expelling people, then maybe I don't understand the definition of an open border. All right, so another thing I want to mention, and feel free to ask questions if you guys have any questions. So the Democrats I guess yesterday on a conference call, pitched the idea of like a parole program, which would be kind of like admitting people into some sort of status that doesn't provide any path to residency or citizenship, that would allegedly be for like a 5-year term that would be renewable, and somehow they would also maybe be able to travel. I think the advocates that were on the call were extremely frustrated. Like, this doesn't really address much of anything of what advocates have been really, really pushing for, which is a pathway to residency and citizenship for so many people who have you know, held up our economy, especially during COVID. So it's disappointing. And at this point, the way the infighting and the sort of things are falling apart, what it seems, I think maybe Democrats are losing steam, and I don't know that they're going to be able to get anything done on immigration in the reconciliation. And, you know, I would hope that they could do something, you know, just there are things that they could do, but they think that it seems like they're portraying that there's nothing they can do, and kind of that, oh, well, we'll try again next year. Might not happen next year, you know. People are pretty serious about this. It is 79 or 75% of the American public supports some sort of pathway to residency and citizenship. So I don't know, folks. I don't know. The new DACA rule that was proposed at late September is open for notice and comments. Like, it's open for comments, so people can put their comments on there. It is basically the same. I just skimmed it. I don't see that it's not an expansion of DACA. The requirements would still be the same, just be more formally codified so that it would be less subject to attack. As many of you know, we have the case pending in Texas, so initial DACA renewals are frozen. They can't really adjudicate them right now. So that is a problem. Hopefully, towards the end of September, October, November, this will start its process of being put into the regulations. And just so you know, anybody watching who isn't familiar with DACA or wants a refresher on what the elements of DACA are, you have to have been in the United States, entered prior to turning 16 years old. You have to have been here 5 years prior to June, I'm working off memory, June 16th, I think, of 2012. June 15th. Man, I was close. June 15th of 2012, you have to have been here continuously for the 5 years preceding that. So that means your entry date had to have been at least June 15th, 2007. You have to be in school, have graduated from school, high school, GED, or honorably discharged from the armed services. So armed service, service in the military is also a potential factor if you didn't have. I don't really see where that would. Military service requires you to complete high school or at least have some college. So I don't know why that's even in there. But you can have a conviction for a felony, a significant misdemeanor, multiple misdemeanor offenses, or pose a threat to national security. As many of you know, the significant misdemeanor language and definition was new and came out with DACA. It was its own little enigma of different types of charges. So even like a, domestic violence would be a significant misdemeanor. So even though it's a misdemeanor charge, it could prevent you from being eligible for DACA. All right, and then you couldn't have been above the age of 30 on June 15th, 2012. So that precluded a lot of people. And then there was where you couldn't have been, you weren't in status as of that date. I don't see that in this rule, and that would technically be an expansion, but I haven't really researched that to be able to talk too much about that. So late November, early December, we should see the comments close and see that moving along. And I imagine that, I don't think we're going to see anything happen on the Texas case before that, but if it does, I guess it just puts a lot of people in limbo, but this may fix that. So, all right. let's talk a little bit about, if nobody has any questions, let's talk a little bit about special immigrant juvenile status, which is a petition that can be filed for children who are subject to like a state order, which is like a dependency or custody order that states that they were abandoned, abused, or neglected by a parent, that they cannot return to their home country because it's not in their best interest, and that they have someone that can take care of them here, either as a ward of the state or a friend or a relative that the court trusts to put that authority into that person. And then with that order, we call it a dependency or custody order here in Georgia, predicate order, because it is the first thing that has to happen. With that order, we then can file for the child's green card or residency. And that child has a pathway to citizenship. They don't have to have a affidavit of support, like they don't have to have a financial sponsor. They and they are just self-petitioning, so they don't have to have a person petition for them. They just have to be have that dependency order. The dependency order, I'm oversimplifying. The dependency order does have to have several things in it. It has to be well done and very, well written and organized, and have all the things required by the statute, and be done while the child's still a minor. Sometimes, if while the pendency of the proceedings is taking place, like COVID created some issues where people maybe turned 18 while their petition was still pending, their petition with the state court was still pending, sometimes a judge will be able to, or is willing to sign a non-protunct order, which means going back in time. So that can work. The timeline on the second step, which is the I485, the application for the green card, must be filed before the child turns 21. So that's another cutoff that this has to happen. And unfortunately, there's no way to get around that. So a lot of people age out, and a lot of people are not able to utilize that by the time they get to an immigration lawyer and figure out as a child they could have been eligible for it. Anybody who was an unaccompanied minor released to a relative, or even here in Georgia is like with a single parent, their other parent either abused, abandoned, or neglected them, and they can't be reunited with that parent. Here in Georgia, we can usually get that predicate order if the facts are what they need to be, right? So, and I'm definitely oversimplifying it. If you think this is something that may apply to a child that you know, or a teenager, a minor in the law, definitely reach out, do a consultation with us, and we can talk about the exact details of what happened to the child. Sometimes that may take a couple of meetings, because sometimes we don't always know what's happened with child before they even get to the United States. Sometimes that journey in and of itself caused some trauma. So caveats though about the special immigrant juvenile status petition: the child can apply, and there goes the train. The child can apply for citizenship, but they can never petition for their parents. So even though we are finding that the child maybe is only abused, abandoned, or neglected by one parent, the child still can never file a petition to help the undocumented parent adjust status. So there are limitations to that, and it's definitely, everybody's not eligible for it. It's not an easy thing, but it is available for some people. All right, let's see. Ernestino asked the question, do you know when the border is supposed to be open for tourist purposes? Yes, we got notice last week that it's now open for fully vaccinated travelers. So land border, airports, and ferry. And that includes southern and northern border. So Ernestino, I think that should be open with proof of vaccination. But there were some exceptions in there about if you were not vaccinated because you didn't have access to the vaccine. Maybe there's a shortage in the home country, but then it said something like you would be required to quarantine and get the vaccination immediately upon arrival or something. So I don't know if they do it in the airport. I don't know. So it's complicated. But technically, it's supposed to be open. It's supposed to be back pre-COVID sort of normalcy now. Okay. All right. Let's see. Thank you for that question. I'm sorry, Ernestina. If I don't have my glasses on, I can't really see. Yes, Ernestina, I'm sorry. I thought it was an O because my eyes are really bad. Apologies. All right. Let me talk a little bit more about is it true that the vaccine has to be Pfizer? No, there's no truth to that. Now I do remember in the bulletin that I saw about the vaccine requirements that I think there were some requirements about the vaccine had to be kind of like one that the US recognizes as legitimate, but there was no name brand was given that it had to be Pfizer or Moderna. Now, I guess the question is going to be, now that the boosters are rolling out, will people be required to have the boosters as well? Is that what's going to count as fully vaccinated? I don't know. We'll just have to see that. But if you're able to get the booster and you're already got the other 2 shots, or Johnson & Johnson and you had 1 shot, I don't know what you're going to do about the booster there. I heard something today about they aren't really sure on the guidance for Johnson & Johnson 1-shot people to get the booster. So, because it's a different type of vaccine. The Pfizer and Moderna were mRNA vaccines. Johnson & Johnson wasn't. So that's yet to be seen. Vaccines, on the same note as vaccines, USCIS is now requiring as part of medical exams for different applications with USCIS, usually that's for adjustment of status, that you have to do a medical exam. They're now requiring that you're vaccinated. So we are recommending for people who have a pending application, they've already done their biometrics and stuff like that, it's looking like the interview is going to come soon. We're saying let's go ahead and get the medical exam because the doctors are getting backed up in their appointments, and you're going to have to do those 2 appointments to get your 2 vaccines, right? And so that's going to have to be timed out and all of that. And I think that medical exams are now valid for 18 months. So that gives you a little bit more time of having it done, and you can still utilize it for the interview if you want to do that. That makes sense. I know that some people may end up in the situation where they have an appointment to go get their medical exam right before their interview, but now that there's this new requirement, maybe they're not going to, the way they've timed it, they're not going to have those 2 shots done in time for the interview, so the doctor can't sign off on the new form. So those people are going to have to probably go to their interview, tell the officer what's going on, maybe show proof of the fact that they went to their medical exam, and ask for a request for evidence to be issued or ask for another appointment to be set, which can cause a little bit more time in the process of things. So I know that's not ideal, but unfortunately in immigration law, we're always dealing with these kind of things, bobbing and weaving, doing the best we can to stay up to date and make decisions based on the information we have, the best information we have. So, all right. 2 other things that pop into my mind as far as news. One is I saw a very well-respected immigration attorney. Usually let me preface what I'm going to say. So usually people who are appointed to immigration judge positions, Board of Immigration Appeal positions are people that have backgrounds in prosecuting. So like they either, usually, the majority of the people that we see, every time they swear in an immigration judge, they post their, like a little paragraph about their work history, basically their pedigree or where they got their degrees and what they did for work. And a lot of the time, the people who were selected for those positions are people who have been immigration prosecutors in deportation court, or even state prosecutors who maybe worked their way up to be a state local judge, or worked in maybe the military JAG, which is not necessarily just prosecuting, but it is a government position, right? So we see a lot of that. So today I saw that a very well-respected immigration attorney who I think ran the, he was a legal clinic up in New York. I think it was Brooklyn, but I'm not 100% sure. Andrea Sainez was appointed to the Board of Immigration Appeals. So that's really good news. We've got somebody who isn't necessarily, you know, I guess is, people may get a more fair shot in front of her. Their cases may get a more fair chance. Because I feel like so much of immigration law, we're always pushing uphill, right? Arguing to people that seem to be predetermined to decide against us. So that's good news. All right, let me look at Viridiana's question real quick. Sorry, Viridiana, I can't see it. If there's a tourist here and wants to get the second dose, would he get in trouble for it and have his visa taken away? In Mexico, they just released the second dose the same day we flew here. So you're basically saying if you're here on a tourist visa and you want to get your second dose here in the US while you're here, because it was released as you were leaving and you didn't have a chance to get it, I don't see any reason that I know of why a person would get in trouble for that. I'm just not quite sure if it would be like free or covered by your insurance. So there may be a cost to it, but it seems to me like everything I'm seeing is you're able to just go to a Walgreens, a drugstore, and ask for the vaccination and get it. Now, that may be an oversimplified understanding on my point, on my perspective, but I don't see any reason under immigration law why you would be in trouble for getting that second vaccination. You know, the main thing, I think this is a public health situation, and that seems like you would be trying to comply with being safe. And I think the government would look favorably on that. You know, with any tourist visa, the most important thing is leaving when you're supposed to leave, not engaging in prohibited activities like working while you're on a tourist visa, etc. So I think a second vaccination shot while you're here would be just fine. If you find out anything differently, please let us know. I think that makes a lot of sense that you'd like to go ahead and get that second dose. Let's see. And I don't foresee that you would have your visa revoked on any basis for having that second shot. Like maybe could somebody argue, oh, it's like proof of intent to remain in the United States? I guess maybe they could argue that, but if you already were vaccinated in Mexico, and presumably you would get your second dose in Mexico if you were there. So I don't think it has anything to do with anything. Now, hopefully, I'm sure you have your little card. You'd be able to, I don't know, maybe Mexico doesn't have the same little card that we have. I don't know about that. But you would need proof of your first shot in order to get your second shot. So that might be like a practical challenge, but I say try it for sure. Stay safe. Be safe. All right. The vaccine stuff has been really, really interesting. I don't know if you guys saw one more news update. There was some sort of discussion about maybe immigrants bringing COVID, and Dr. Fauci pushed back on that. I mean, this has been over 2 years now. I said that I foresaw that the Trump administration was going to utilize this as a way to like further detain people and expel people. And I was right, unfortunately. A lot of detainees were in extremely, extremely frightening situations during COVID. Gosh, it's traumatic. It's traumatic. So I'm glad that we've sort of moved past that, and we're not having people call me with their whole dorm locked down and COVID just running rampant with no masks, no nothing. It was really, really awful, and I feel really bad for everyone who went through that. So I think in a few years we're gonna look back and see just how traumatic all of this was. So, but for now, we're gonna keep pushing ahead. You know, you're gonna have, if you want to adjust your status, if you want to travel into the US, it looks like now vaccines are gonna be required. So that is what you need to do. Now, I do know some people may ask, what about a religious exemption? What about, is there any way that I can just say I don't want to get the vaccine when I have to do my medical exam? There is a way to request an exemption, but it looks expensive, it looks time consuming, and it looks, I don't know. You would need to have a very, very strong and clear claim to an exemption. So I wouldn't mess around with that necessarily. If, you know, if you have a really strong religious conviction and your religion is consistently against vaccines or consistently against any medical treatment whatsoever, like you don't even take Tylenol, you don't drink coffee, your religion is all about everything natural, maybe we can try it if that's the road you want to go down, but you need to be prepared to be patient and to be able to pay. Because I think from what I remember that you would have to file a waiver. So anyway, and those can be expensive and time consuming. So not saying it's impossible, not saying it wouldn't help necessarily, but I wouldn't recommend it. I'd say just go ahead, get what you need to get those medical exams done, and let's keep moving. All right. Well, I've spent my 30 minutes with y'all. It's been really, really nice to be with you. And our phone number is posted in the comments. If you want to call to make a consultation appointment with me or any of our immigration attorneys, feel free to do that. We would love to help you and talk about your case with you. See if there's anything we can do to help. Oh, big shout out to the people who put on the Expo Latino this past weekend on Saturday. Gosh, I want to actually say the name of the group. It was a fantastic event. It was so well done. We saw a lot of really nice people. The food was great, of course. They had a lot of really good information and vendors and things like that. So it was the Valdosta Latino Association. Big shout out to them for doing a great job on a great event. And thank you so much for having us there. If we saw you there, hi again. We did have, I know one person mentioned that he watches our Facebook Lives, so that was great to hear. All right, well, we will try to keep you posted on any other local events. Follow our Facebook page, like and follow our Facebook page, Twitter, what else? YouTube, all of that. Mr. Kuck gives immigration updates all the time, and that's where you'll find most of the litigation updates. He's on Twitter at C-K-U-C-K. So C Kuck. And then I'm on Twitter at L_Matherne, M-A-T-H-E-R-N-E. You can also follow my personal Facebook page, which is Elizabeth Matherne, Immigration Attorney. And you'll see the local ADEL office updates there. It's not as active as our big firm page, but you will see some local updates there. Maybe that's where I can go on Facebook Live more easily from events and stuff like that. So feel free to follow me there. And if you'd like to come visit us, we're halfway between Tifton and Valdosta, right off I-75. We are in very close proximity to North Florida and pretty much anywhere in South Georgia. So, all right, I'll let y'all go. Hope you have a great weekend. We'll talk to you later. Bye.